Maya Taylor woke up at 3 a.m. to find her neighbors standing in her bedroom. Not in her bedroom, she realized after her heart restarted, but outside. In her backyard. 7 of them, maybe 8, arranged in a loose semicircle on her lawn, faces turned up toward her window. Motionless. Silent. Just standing there in the dark like they were waiting for something. She lurched backward from the window, pulse hammering in her throat. Grabbed her phone. The screen's glow felt obscene in the darkness. She pulled up the camera, hands shaking, and when she looked again, empty lawn. Nothing but shadow and the neighbor's motion sensor light casting everything in sickly yellow. Maya stood there for 5 minutes, watching. Waiting for movement. For proof she hadn't imagined it. But the yard remained still, and eventually the cold from the hardwood floor crept up through her bare feet and into her bones, and she convinced herself it had been a dream. Hypnagogic hallucination. She'd read about those. Stress-induced. Perfectly normal for someone who just moved, who just had their career implode, who just spent 15 years trusting their perception only to discover they couldn't even vet a single goddamn source. She went back to bed. Told herself it was nothing. In the morning she found the footprints. 8 sets of them, pressed into the dew-wet grass, arranged in that same semicircle. All facing her window. And in the center, where no one had been standing, someone had drawn a symbol in the grass with their finger, or a stick, a simple design she didn't recognize but that made something prehistoric in her brain scream wrong. Maya had built her career on facts. On evidence. On observable, verifiable truth. She photographed the footprints. Measured them. Documented everything with the methodical precision that had once won her awards. She never uploaded those photos anywhere. Because 3 days later, when she went back to check her phone, they were gone. Not deleted. Just gone. Replaced with photos she didn't remember taking. Her empty backyard. Pristine grass. Different angle, different light, but undeniably her phone, her camera roll, her timestamp. Welcome to Willow Heights, the HOA brochure had said. Where community comes first. That was 11 days ago. Now Maya knew exactly what came first. Maya spent day 1 doing what she always did when reality stopped making sense. She made lists. Facts. 8 people in my backyard at 3 a.m. Footprints, photographed. Symbol in grass, photographed. Photos deleted/replaced. No forced entry. No damage. No threatening behavior, technically. Possible explanations. Neighborhood welcome ritual, cult. Hazing new residents, excessive. Sleepwalking episode but the footprints. Stress hallucination but the footprints. Someone is gaslighting me but why? I just moved here. She stared at the list. Drew a line through it. Started again. The problem with being a disgraced journalist was that you'd already learned the hard way how easy it was to see patterns that weren't there. To trust a source because they seemed credible. To build an entire investigation on quicksand. Maya had spent 6 months exposing a pharmaceutical company's illegal drug trials. 6 months of meticulous research. And then it turned out her primary whistleblower, the inside source who'd provided the smoking gun documents, had fabricated everything. Not because the company was innocent. They probably weren't. But her story, her byline, had been built on lies she'd been too eager to believe. She couldn't afford to be that person again. So when she saw Mrs. Patterson from next door gardening in her front yard, Maya forced herself to walk over. Normal interaction. Rational conversation. Morning. Mrs. Patterson looked up from her rose bushes with that same rehearsed smile everyone here seemed to wear. Settling in okay? Getting there, Maya said. Then, casually as she could manage, hey, weird question. Does the neighborhood have any traditions? For new residents. Traditions? Mrs. Patterson's smile never wavered, but something behind her eyes went very still. Yeah, like welcome ceremonies or... Oh, the HOA does a quarterly mixer. You'll get an invitation. We're very friendly here. She turned back to her roses, snipping with precise, measured cuts. Very friendly. The conversation was over. Maya felt it like a door closing. She tried again with Mr. Reeves, who was washing his car. Then with the Taylors, no relation, who were walking their golden retriever. Same result. Same pleasant deflection. Same sense that she'd asked the wrong question, or maybe the right one. By afternoon, Maya had learned 3 things. Everyone had moved to Willow Heights within a 6-month window, 2 years ago. No one could clearly explain why they'd chosen this development specifically. And every single one of them changed the subject when she mentioned the HOA president, a man named Christopher Miller whom she still hadn't met. Day 2, Maya did what any good journalist would do. She went to the county records office. Willow Heights had been built by Meridian Properties, a development company she'd never heard of. The land had previously been a psychiatric facility, Blackwood Sanatorium, demolished in 2019. That was not ideal, but also not particularly unusual. Plenty of developments were built on former institutional land. What was unusual, every house had sold within a 3-week period. All cash purchases. No mortgages. No inspection records. No paper trail beyond the most basic documentation. 47 houses. 47 families. All bought in at the exact same time. Maya's hands trembled as she photographed the records. This was it. This was the pattern. This was... Can I help you find something? She jumped. The clerk, an older woman with reading glasses on a beaded chain, was watching her with polite concern. Just doing some research, Maya said. Local history piece. Oh, how nice. The woman smiled. We don't get many journalists here anymore. Not since, she stopped. Oh, not many. Not since what? But the woman was already walking away, and something in Maya's gut told her not to push. She left with her photos and a new question burning in her mind. Not since what? Day 3, the walls started whispering. Not literally. Maya wasn't crazy. But there were sounds in the house, settling sounds, the realtor had said, that came at specific times. 3 a.m., 3:17 a.m., 3:33 a.m. Regular intervals. Like footsteps in the attic, except she'd been up there. It was empty. She recorded the sounds on her phone. Played them back. They were there. Definitely there. She uploaded them to her laptop as backup. The next morning, the files were corrupted. White noise. Static. Maya sat at her Kit Taylor table, staring at her computer screen, and felt the first real thread of fear wind around her spine. 1 corrupted file was a glitch. 2 was a coincidence. But her backyard photos and her audio recordings? Someone was in her devices. She called her editor, Tom, at the paper. Voicemail. She texted. No response. She tried his personal cell. Maya, hey, Tom sounded distracted. Listen, now's not a good time. Tom, I need to talk to you about something. The suburban living piece? Just send me whatever you have. Doesn't need to be groundbreaking. It's not about the piece. Something's happening where I'm... Maya. His voice went gentle. Pitying. You're supposed to be taking it easy, remember? Low stress. No investigations. Just try to settle in, okay? He hung up before she could respond. Maya looked at her phone. At her reflection in the black screen. Try to settle in. Like she was the problem. Like she was overreacting. Maybe she was. Day 4, Maya found the journal. She'd been looking for Christmas decorations in the attic, forward-thinking, trying to be normal, when she knocked over a cardboard box that the previous owners had apparently left behind. Out spilled old magazines, a broken lamp, and a leather-bound notebook. The journal fell open to a page marked with a dried flower. The handwriting was small, cramped, feminine. Day 23, they're doing it again. The 3 a.m. gatherings. I counted 11 people tonight. They know I'm watching. They have to know. But they just stand there, and in the morning, Christopher says I need to adjust my sleep schedule and maybe talk to Dr. Ryan about the anxiety. But I'm not anxious. I'm paying attention. Maya's blood went cold. She flipped back to the first entry. My name is Lauren Taylor. I'm an investigative journalist for the Portland Tribune. I've moved to Willow Heights for what I thought would be a puff piece on suburban development. That was 6 weeks ago. If you're reading this, it means I didn't make it out. Maya's hands were shaking so hard she almost dropped the journal. She read the whole thing. Every entry. Lauren's growing paranoia. Her documentation of the neighbors' synchronized behaviors. Her discovery of the property records. Her corrupted files. Her editor who stopped returning calls. The entries became more frantic. More desperate. Lauren had tried to leave twice. Both times, she'd ended up back at her house with gaps in her memory. Hours missing. The final entry was dated 6 months ago. I know what they're doing now. I know what Willow Heights really is. I can't write it down because they read everything. But if you're like me, if you're a journalist, if you came here after a career trauma, then you need to understand, this was designed for you. The breakdown wasn't random. The job wasn't random. None of this is random. Don't trust your memories. Don't trust your devices. Don't trust. The entry ended mid-sentence. Maya sat in the attic as the afternoon light faded, holding a dead woman's journal, and realized 3 things simultaneously. She was in danger. She was losing her mind. Or both were true at once, and that was the trap. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat at her Kit Taylor table with Lauren Taylor's journal, a pot of coffee, and every light in the house blazing. At 3 a.m. exactly she heard them. Footsteps. Outside. Multiple sets, moving with synchronized precision across lawns, between houses, converging on. She forced herself to look out the window. They were there. More than before. 15, maybe 20 neighbors standing in a loose formation in the cul-de-sac center circle. All facing different houses. Rotating slowly, like human security cameras. Maya grabbed her phone. Started recording through the gap in her curtains. Mrs. Patterson was there, still in her gardening clothes from yesterday? Or were those different clothes that just looked the same? Mr. Reeves. The Taylors with their golden retriever sitting obediently at their feet. Others she'd seen but hadn't met. And in the center, a man she'd never seen before. Tall, silver-haired, wearing a cardigan despite the September chill. He stood perfectly still while the others rotated around him like planets around a sun. Christopher Miller. Had to be. He looked directly at her window. Maya stumbled backward, heart slamming against her ribs. The phone clattered from her hand. When she picked it up 3 seconds later and looked again, the street was empty. But this time she had proof. The video. She'd been recording. Her hands shook as she opened her camera roll. The video was there. 32 seconds. She pressed play. Empty street. Sodium streetlights casting orange pools. Nothing moving except a plastic bag skittering across pavement. No, Maya whispered. No, no, no. She'd watched them. She'd seen them. She played it again, and again. Just an empty street. Maya looked at her reflection in the Kit Taylor window. Saw a wild-eyed woman she barely recognized. Hair uncombed. Coffee-stained shirt. The kind of person who sees conspiracies in lawn care and shadows. The kind of person who fabricates sources. No, she slammed that thought down hard. This was different. This was real. Lauren Taylor's journal proved it. Lauren Taylor. Another journalist. Another person who'd seen patterns, documented evidence, spiraled into paranoia. Another person who was gone. Maya opened the journal again, flipped to a middle entry. Day 34. Dr. Ryan says I'm experiencing a stress-induced psychotic break. He's prescribed something. Risperidone. I looked it up, it's an antipsychotic. They think I'm crazy. But I'm not crazy. I'm the only one seeing clearly. The only one who... Am I crazy? What if I'm crazy? What if everything I've documented is just my mind breaking down, and they're all normal people trying to help, and I'm the monster turning them into villains because I can't accept that I'm the problem? Maya's throat constricted. She slammed the journal shut. Day 5. Maya made a decision. She would approach this scientifically. Objectively. Like a real investigation, not a paranoid episode. She created a spreadsheet. Time-stamped observations. Cross-referenced data. Separated confirmed facts from assumptions. Confirmed. Journal exists, physical object, verifiable. Previous resident was named Lauren Taylor, need to confirm. I hear sounds at regular intervals, recorded, though files corrupted. Neighbors moved in simultaneously, county records. Photos on my phone were replaced, or were they? No external verification. Unconfirmed. People in my yard, no video evidence, only footprints, now gone. People in the street, video shows nothing. Any actual threat. That I'm not experiencing a breakdown. The last line sat there like an accusation. Maya got in her car. She needed external verification. Someone outside Willow Heights who could confirm she wasn't losing her mind. She drove to the Portland Tribune offices, Lauren Taylor's former employer. Maybe they'd have information. Maybe they'd remember her. The receptionist was young, disinterested. Lauren Taylor? Let me check. Typing. Frowning. We don't have anyone by that name in our system. She would have left about 6 months ago. Investigative journalist. I've been here 2 years. We've never had a Lauren Taylor. Maya's vision tunneled. That's impossible. She wrote for you. Ma'am, I can show you our staff directory going back 5 years if you'd like. She did. Maya scanned every name. No Lauren Taylor. Maybe she freelanced? Maya heard the desperation in her own voice. Our freelance database goes back 10 years. No Lauren Taylor. Maya sat in her car in the parking lot for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel. Either Lauren Taylor had never existed, or someone had erased her so thoroughly that even her employer had no record. Both options were terrifying. Day 6, the neighbors started being helpful. Mrs. Patterson brought over a casserole. You look tired, dear. Are you sleeping okay? Mr. Reeves offered to check her locks. Security is so important. We want you to feel safe here. The Taylors invited her to their book club. Community is everything in Willow Heights. You shouldn't isolate yourself. Every interaction felt scripted, performed, like they were reading lines they'd memorized, or like they were genuinely concerned neighbors, and Maya was the paranoid new resident reading malice into kindness. That night, Maya found a pamphlet slipped under her door. Willow Heights Wellness Initiative Mental Health Resources for Our Community. Inside, information about Dr. Leonard Ryan, community psychiatrist, specializing in anxiety disorders, paranoid ideation, and adjustment difficulties. The same Dr. Ryan from Lauren's journal. Maya's hands trembled as she read the note paper-clipped to the pamphlet, written in elegant cursive. Dear Maya, we understand that transitions can be difficult, especially after professional setbacks. Dr. Ryan has helped many of our residents find peace and clarity. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to support you. Welcome home, Christopher Miller, HOA president. She looked out her front window. Across the street, Christopher Miller stood on his porch, watching her house. When he saw her looking, he raised a hand, smiled and waved. Maya closed the curtains with shaking hands. Day 7, Maya started seeing the symbol everywhere. The one that had been drawn in her grass, a circle with 3 intersecting lines, forming a pattern she couldn't quite parse. She saw it in the frost on her car window, in the way tree shadows fell across the sidewalk, in the foam of her coffee when she poured it carelessly. She was looking for it. She knew she was looking for it. Pareidolia. Pattern recognition gone haywire. The human brain's desperate need to find meaning in chaos. But then she found it carved into the doorframe of her attic. Small, precise, deliberate. She hadn't imagined that. Maya took a photo, uploaded it immediately to 3 different cloud services, sent it to her personal email, downloaded it to a thumb drive. She would not lose this evidence. That afternoon, she checked. All 3 cloud uploads, corrupted files. Email, couldn't be delivered. Thumb drive, empty. But the carving was still there. Physical, real, undeniable. Maya pressed her forehead against the attic doorframe and felt something inside her crack. Day 8, Maya went to see Dr. Ryan. Not because she believed them. Not because she thought she was crazy. But because she needed to know what Lauren Taylor had experienced. Needed to understand the playbook. His office was in the community center, a building she'd somehow never noticed despite driving past it daily. Modern. Decorated with abstract art that was probably meant to be calming but instead felt like visual static. Dr. Ryan was exactly what she'd expected. Late 50s, Cardigan, wire-rimmed glasses, the kind of gentle smile that made you want to confess your secrets. "Maya," he said warmly, "I'm so glad you came in. Christopher mentioned you might be struggling with the adjustment." "I'm not struggling," Maya said. "I'm investigating." "Investigating what?" "The previous resident of my house. Lauren Taylor." Something flickered across his face. "Too fast to read. I'm afraid I can't discuss other patients." "So she was your patient?" Dr. Ryan folded his hands. "Maya, let's talk about you. How have you been sleeping? I want to know what happened to Lauren Taylor." "I'm more concerned about what's happening to you right now. Christopher tells me you've been displaying signs of paranoid ideation, documenting your neighbors, making accusations. How does Christopher know what I've been doing in my own house?" The question hung in the air. Dr. Ryan's smile never wavered. "This is a close community. People notice when someone is in distress. They care. They're watching me. They're concerned about you." He leaned forward. "Maya, I've read about what happened at your paper. The fabricated source. The retraction. That kind of professional trauma can trigger." "Don't." Maya stood up. "Don't make this about that." "But it is about that, isn't it? You're a journalist who stopped being able to trust her own judgment. And now you're in a new place, under stress, and you're seeing patterns that might not exist. Finding conspiracies to investigate because that's safer than accepting that you might need help." Maya's breath came short. Fast. "I found a journal," she said. "Lauren Taylor's journal. She documented everything. The same things I'm seeing." "May I see this journal?" Maya hesitated. Every instinct screamed not to give it to him. But she needed him to believe her. Needed someone to see the evidence. She pulled it from her bag. Dr. Ryan took it. Flipped through the pages. His expression remained neutral, professional. "Maya," he said gently, "this is your handwriting." "What?" He turned the journal around. Showed her the cramped, feminine script. It looked exactly like her handwriting. "No," Maya whispered. "No, that's not, I didn't write that. That's Lauren's. There is no Lauren Taylor. There never was. You wrote this journal yourself, probably during a dissociative episode. It's not uncommon with this kind of stress-induced break. The mind creates elaborate narratives too." Maya snatched the journal back. Stared at the writing. It did look like hers. The way she made her capital I's. The slant of her lowercase g's. But that was impossible. She'd found it. When had she found it? What day did she find it? She tried to remember, but the timeline was getting fuzzy, and "I think we should start you on something," Dr. Ryan was saying. "Just to help with the anxiety. Clear your thinking. You'll feel so much better once we get your brain chemistry balanced." Maya ran. She didn't remember deciding to run. But suddenly she was in her car, gasping for air, the journal clutched to her chest. The handwriting was hers. The handwriting was hers. The handwriting was hers. Maya didn't go home. She drove. Just drove. Out of Willow Heights, onto the highway, putting distance between herself and that office, that journal, that impossible handwriting. She ended up at a rest stop 40 miles away, parked under flickering fluorescent lights, and finally allowed herself to look at the journal again. Page after page of her handwriting. Unmistakably hers. The loops, the pressure points, the way she crossed her T's with a slight upward flick, everything. But she hadn't written it. She couldn't have written it. She would remember writing dozens of pages, wouldn't she? Unless Dr. Ryan was right. Unless she'd had a dissociative episode. Created an elaborate false memory to protect herself from the reality of her breakdown. Invented Lauren Taylor as a way to externalize her own paranoia, make it someone else's story, someone else's madness. It was possible. It was clinically documented. People did that. Or someone had studied her handwriting. Practiced it. Created this journal specifically to make her doubt her own sanity. Both explanations were insane. Maya laughed. The sound echoed in her car, brittle and wrong. She opened her laptop. She'd grabbed it when she fled the house, some journalist instinct to never leave without her tools. Searched for Lauren Taylor, journalist, Portland. Nothing. Lauren Taylor, investigative reporter. Nothing relevant. Lauren Taylor, missing person, Oregon. Nothing. She tried different combinations, different databases, even checked obituaries. Lauren Taylor didn't exist. Had never existed. Maya's phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You left your medication at the office. I can drop it by tonight. Dr. Ryan. She hadn't been prescribed anything. She'd run before he could write a prescription. Another buzz. We're worried about you, Maya. Please come home. Christopher. How did Christopher have her number? Another. The casserole is getting cold. Pop it in the oven at 350 for 20 minutes. Hope you're feeling better. Patricia P. Another. Book club is Thursday. We'd love to have you. Community is healing. The Taylors. Another. Another. Her phone was buzzing continuously now, messages pouring in from numbers she'd never saved, people expressing concern, offering help, asking where she was, telling her to come home. Come home. Come home. Maya threw the phone across the parking lot. It shattered against the pavement. In the sudden silence, she could hear her own breathing. Ragged. Panicked. She was having a breakdown. Right now. This was what it felt like. This spiraling terror, this inability to distinguish reality from delusion, this sense that the entire world was conspiring against you or you were the conspiracy, your own mind the enemy. She pressed her palms against her eyes until she saw stars. Think. Think. Journalist brain. Facts. Evidence. What could she prove? She still had her laptop. No one could get into her laptop. It wasn't connected to her phone, wasn't synced to any cloud service she'd used since moving here. Maya opened her old files. Found her story about the pharmaceutical company, the one that had destroyed her career. Opened it. Read it. It was good. Solid journalism. Compelling evidence. And then, 3/4 through, the fabricated source. Dr. Elizabeth Marsh, former clinical director. The smoking gun testimony that had been too perfect, too damning, too convenient. Maya had never questioned it. Elizabeth Marsh had provided documents, emails, insider details. Everything checked out. Until it didn't. Until the pharmaceutical company's lawyers proved that Elizabeth Marsh had never worked there. That the documents were forgeries. That someone had played Maya Taylor for a fool. But who? And why? Maya's hands hovered over the keyboard. What if that had been the setup? What if someone had deliberately destroyed her career to get her here? To make her vulnerable? To make her the perfect candidate for what? She searched her email archives. Found the first contact from Elizabeth Marsh. Traced the email headers. The IP address originated from Oregon. From a subnet registered to Meridian Properties. The company that built Willow Heights. Maya's blood went cold. She dug deeper. Found the first email from her editor about the suburban living assignment. The one that had seemed like a mercy, a soft landing after her disgrace. Sent 2 days after her story was retracted. Before she'd even told anyone she was looking for a new place to live. They'd known. Someone had known she'd need to escape. Had a job ready. Had a house ready. Had a whole goddamn neighborhood ready. For her specifically. Maya sat in that rest stop parking lot as the pieces assembled themselves into a picture she couldn't unsee. This wasn't random. This was targeted. Methodical. But why? What was Willow Heights? What did they want? Day 9. Maya broke into the community center at 2 a.m. She'd driven back. She needed answers, needed access to whatever records they kept. If she was going to prove this, she needed evidence that couldn't be deleted, corrupted, or gaslit away. The lock was easy. Just a standard deadbolt. The alarm system was simpler than it should be, like they weren't really trying to keep people out. Or like they wanted her to get in. Maya pushed that thought away and moved through the dark building with her phone's flashlight. Not her phone, she'd bought a burner at a gas station. No GPS. No tracking. Dr. Ryan's office was unlocked. That should have been a warning. But Maya was past warnings. Past caution. She needed the truth more than she needed safety. She found the filing cabinets, found the patient files, found her own name. Maya Taylor, patient number 47. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside, psychiatric evaluations. Pages and pages of them. Personality assessments. Psychological profiles. Behavioral predictions. All dated before she'd moved to Willow Heights. Before her story had been retracted. Some dated back 2 years. Patient demonstrates classic markers for susceptibility to induced paranoia. High functioning, intelligence 127, strong pattern recognition capability. Journalism background provides perfect framework for investigation-focused delusion. Trust issues stemming from childhood, father's infidelity, create predisposition toward conspiracy thinking. Recommendation: proceed with Phase 1 implementation. Maya's vision blurred. She flipped pages. Phase 1 complete. Fabricated source successfully planted. Career destabilization achieved. Patient's professional identity compromised as predicted. Self-doubt and imposter syndrome elevated to optimal levels. Recommendation: proceed with Phase 2. Offer refuge. Present as opportunity for redemption. More pages. Phase 2 complete. Patient accepted position and housing. Arrival date confirmed. Neighborhood prepared. All residents briefed on protocol. Recommendation: proceed with Phase 3. Staged supernatural events. Gaslighting sequence Alpha 7. Induce paranoid spiral. Maya couldn't breathe. Expected timeline: 14 days until complete psychological dissolution. Patient will either accept pharmaceutical intervention, preferable, or require forced hospitalization, acceptable. Either outcome serves research parameters. Note: patient number 46, S. Taylor, required hospitalization after 47 days. Resistance higher than predicted. Adjust approach for patient number 47 accordingly. Lauren Taylor, patient number 46. She had existed. She'd been real. And they'd done this to her too. Maya photographed everything with the burner phone. Every page. Every evaluation. Every sick, calculated prediction of how she'd break. Then she found the final page. Willow Heights Research Initiative sponsor, Blackwood Institute for Behavioral Sciences objective, induced paranoid psychosis in high-functioning individuals. Study of reality perception breakdown in controlled environment. Applications: enhanced interrogation techniques, cult deprogramming reversal, social control methodologies. Current success rate: 43 of 46 patients achieved complete psychological dissolution within 60 days. Patient number 46, S. Taylor currently institutionalized, Blackwood facility. Permanent psychotic state achieved. Patient number 47, M. Taylor in progress. The lights came on. Maya spun around. Christopher Miller stood in the doorway. Behind him, Dr. Ryan. Mrs. Patterson. Mr. Reeves. The Taylors. 15-20 neighbors, all watching her with expressions of gentle concern. "Oh, Maya," Christopher said softly. "This is exactly what we predicted you'd do. You," her voice cracked. "You destroyed my life. You drove me here. We've been trying to help you," Dr. Ryan said. "You're having a paranoid episode. Breaking into medical facilities. Stealing patient records. These delusions about conspiracy. I have proof." Maya held up the phone. "I photographed everything. Your files, your research, your..." Christopher's smile was infinitely patient. "The files you photographed are your own psychiatric records. From your previous therapist. Before you moved here. We had them transferred when Dr. Ryan began treating you." "That's not. You broke into a medical facility and photographed your own mental health history. That's what you've done tonight. And we understand. The paranoid mind creates elaborate narratives. Makes everyone complicit. But Maya," he took a step closer. "You're sick. You need help. We can provide that help." "I'm not crazy," Maya whispered. "Of course not," Mrs. Patterson said kindly. "You're just unwell. There's a difference." They were moving closer. All of them. A tightening circle. Maya looked at the phone in her hand. At the photos she'd taken. What if they were right? What if she'd photographed the wrong thing? Misread everything? What if her paranoid mind had turned innocent medical records into sinister research files? What if she couldn't trust her own eyes anymore? "We've called for help," Dr. Ryan said gently. "An ambulance is coming. They'll take you somewhere safe. Somewhere you can rest. Get the treatment you need." "No." Maya backed toward the window. "No, I'm not. I don't need." "Please don't make this harder than it has to be," Christopher said. "We care about you. Everyone here cares about you. We want you to be well." They all nodded. Synchronous. Perfect. Maya saw it then. The slight delay. The way their expressions cycled through concerned patient sympathy like a programmed sequence. The way they stood at mathematically precise distances from each other. This was real. The conspiracy was real. Or her mind was so broken that she was seeing patterns in ordinary human behavior. Finding conspiracy in kindness. Making monsters out of people trying to help. She couldn't tell anymore. Couldn't tell. And that was the trap, wasn't it? That was the real horror. Not the conspiracy or the breakdown, but the impossible space between them where truth dissolved into unknowable static. Maya threw the burner phone through the window. Glass shattered. Alarm shrieked. She climbed through, cutting her hands on the remaining shards, dropped 8 feet to the grass below, and ran. Behind her, she heard Christopher's voice, calm and measured. "Let her go. She'll come back. They always come back." Day 10, Maya lived in her car. She parked in different locations every few hours. Used cash only. Avoided cameras. Basic tradecraft, though she wasn't sure when she'd learned it or if she was just making it up, paranoid improvisation masquerading as competence. She tried calling the police. They'd been sympathetic. Asked if she was taking her medications. Suggested she contact Dr. Ryan. They're all in on it. Or the police had just dealt with enough unstable people to recognize the signs. Maya couldn't tell anymore. She tried driving away. Made it to the state line. But her car had broken down, faulty alternator, and while she waited for the tow truck, she'd realized she had nowhere to go. No friends who'd believe her. No family who wouldn't immediately call Dr. Ryan. No colleagues who'd trust the journalist who'd fabricated a source. She was alone. That's what they'd counted on. That's what made her perfect. Patient number 47. No support network. No credibility. No way to distinguish her paranoia from reality because she'd already proven she couldn't trust her own judgment. Beautiful. Elegant. Completely inescapable. Maya looked at the burner phone. The one she'd thrown through the window. It had landed in the bushes. She'd retrieved it. The photos were there. The research files. The evidence. She looked at them again. Really looked. The letterhead said Blackwood Institute for Behavioral Sciences. But in the photo, if she zoomed in, the text seemed slightly blurred. Like it had been digitally inserted. Or like her hands had been shaking when she photographed it. The signature on the research proposal, Dr. Christopher Miller, Director. But Christopher was just the HOA president. Wasn't he? Or had he ever said that? Or had she assumed it? So, she was doing it again. Questioning everything. Drowning in uncertainty. That's what they wanted. Or that's what her paranoid mind was doing to itself. Maya closed her eyes. When she opened them, she saw someone sitting in the passenger seat. Lauren Taylor. Maya didn't scream. Didn't startle. Just looked at the woman who couldn't possibly be there. Lauren looked tired. Haunted. Exactly how Maya felt. "You're not real," Maya said. "Does it matter?" Lauren's voice was soft. "I'm here anyway." Hallucination. Stress-induced. I'm finally cracking. Or I'm what's left of me. The part they couldn't quite erase. Here to warn you. Maya laughed. It sounded unhinged. Warn me about what? I already know. They orchestrated everything. Or I'm insane. Or both. I'm trapped in a scenario where every explanation is nightmare. Lauren turned to look at her. Her eyes were infinitely sad. "The worst part isn't that you can't tell what's real," she said. "The worst part is that it doesn't matter. Real conspiracy or real breakdown. Either way, you lose. Either way, you end up in Blackwood. Either way, they win. So what do I do?" Same thing I did. You go back. Back to Willow Heights? Where else? You can't run. Can't prove anything. Can't trust anyone. So you go back, and you accept their help, and you take their medication, and you let them fix you. Lauren's smile was broken. It's not so bad really. Once you stop fighting. Once you accept that you'll never know the truth. That's when the peace comes. Maya stared at this hallucination of a woman who might have been real. Did they break you? She whispered. Or were you already broken? Yes, Lauren said. Then she was gone. Maya sat alone in her car as the sun came up on day 11, and made her decision. Yes. The truth is, I can tell you anything, and you'll never know if I'm lying. I can show you documents proving Blackwood exists. Or documents proving it doesn't. I can introduce you to Lauren Taylor. We have someone who could play her. Or prove she never existed. Whatever you need to believe, Maya, we can provide. Maya's hands shook around the teacup. So this is torture. Epistemological torture. This is help. His voice was sincere. Genuinely kind. You came here broken. Your career destroyed. Your judgment compromised. Your ability to trust yourself shattered. And now? Now you're even more broken. And you have two choices. He leaned forward. Choice 1, keep fighting. Keep looking for proof. Spiral deeper into paranoia until you're catatonic in a facility somewhere, destroyed by your own mind's inability to find certainty in an uncertain world. He paused. Choice 2, accept that you'll never know. Accept the medication. Accept the help. Let us rebuild you into someone who can function without needing absolute truth. Someone who can live with ambiguity. That's not a choice, Maya whispered. That's surrender. That's survival. Maya looked at him. Really looked. Tried to see the monster or the savior. Saw only a middle-aged man in a cardigan, offering her tea. What happened to Lauren Taylor? She asked. Christopher was quiet for a long moment. Patient 46 is comfortable. Medicated. No longer suffering the torment of uncertainty. She's at peace. She's destroyed. She's alive. Which is more than she'd be if she'd kept driving herself mad looking for answers that don't exist. Maya set down the teacup. Her hands were steadier now. You want to know what I think? She said. Christopher waited. I think it's real. All of it. Blackwood, the research, the orchestrated breakdown. I think you've perfected the art of making people question their sanity. And I think the cruelest part isn't the conspiracy. It's that even knowing it's real, I still can't trust my own certainty. You've poisoned the well so thoroughly that truth and delusion taste the same. Christopher smiled. That's a very sophisticated delusion. Or a very sophisticated conspiracy. Yes. They sat in silence. The medication, Maya finally said. What does it do? Helps with paranoid ideation. Stabilizes mood. Makes it easier to accept uncertainty without spiraling. Makes me compliant. Makes you functional. Maya laughed. It sounded almost sane. And if I refuse? Then you'll keep disintegrating. You'll end up hospitalized whether you want to be or not. We're patient, Maya. Well, wait. But you can't live in your car forever. Can't run forever. Eventually, your mind or your body will give out, and you'll end up in our care anyway. He paused. This way at least you choose it. Maya stood. Walked to the window. Outside, neighbors were emerging. Mrs. Patterson with her garden shears. Mr. Reeves washing his car. The Taylors walking their golden retriever. Performing normalcy. Or just being normal, and she was the broken thing making them monstrous. If I take the medication, Maya said slowly, will I forget? Will I stop believing this is real? You'll stop caring whether it's real. That's not the same as peace. It's close enough. Maya turned to face him. And if it's not real? If this is all my paranoid delusion, and you're just a concerned president, and I'm a sick woman who needs helps, then the medication will help you see that. Or make me believe that. Maya. Christopher stood. You're arguing in circles. That's what makes this unbearable. Not the conspiracy or the breakdown, but your need to know which one it is. That need is what's destroying you. Let it go. I'm a journalist. Truth is, what destroyed your career? Truth is what you've never been able to reliably access. Truth is what broke you. He moved closer. You want to know what I think you are? Maya waited. I think you're someone who's spent her whole life looking for certainty in an uncertain world. And when you finally made a mistake, trusted the wrong source, it shattered your identity so completely that you became vulnerable to exactly this kind of spiral. Real or imagined. We didn't break you, Maya. You were already broken. We're just offering to put you back together. Into what? Into someone who can live without answers. Day 12. Maya took the first pill. It was small, but looked harmless. She swallowed it with water while Christopher watched. Good, he said. That's good. You'll start to feel better soon. She didn't feel different. Not right away. But over the next week, something shifted. The sharp edges of her paranoia softened. The need to document, to prove, to know, it didn't disappear, but it mattered less. She attended book club with the Taylors. It was pleasant. They discussed a thriller about an unreliable narrator. Maya found it funny. She had coffee with Mrs. Patterson. Learned about her rose garden. It was genuinely interesting. She even played tennis with Mr. Reeves. Lost badly. Laughed about it. The medication made everything softer. Easier. The world became less threatening when you stopped needing it to make sense. Sometimes, late at night, she'd take out Lauren Taylor's journal. Read the entries. Wonder if she'd written them herself during some dissociative fugue. It didn't matter anymore. Sometimes she'd drive past the community center and think about the files she'd seen, or thought she'd seen, or created in her own mind. It didn't matter anymore. She was functional. She was peaceful. She was surviving. She'd started writing again. Soft pieces about suburban life. They were good. Her editor said so. She was rebuilding her career. Everything was fine. 3 months later, Maya woke at 3 a.m. to the sound of footsteps outside. Old instinct, ancient and buried, pulled her to the window. The new neighbor was there, standing in his backyard, staring up at his bedroom window with an expression Maya recognized. Confusion, fear. The beginning of understanding that something was wrong. Patient number 48. Maya watched for a moment, felt something stir in her chest. Something the medication usually suppressed. She should go back to bed. Take her evening dose. Let it go. Instead, she found herself walking downstairs. Outside. Across the lawn. The neighbor, young man, late 20s, probably another journalist, startled when he saw her. I'm sorry, he said. I know it's late. Did you see them? Were there people out here? I could swear. Maya looked at him. Really looked. She could warn him. Tell him to run. Tell him everything she'd learned. Or thought she'd learned. Or imagined she'd learned. She could be Lauren Taylor's ghost, appearing to warn the next victim. Or she could do what Christopher had done for her. What Dr. Ryan had done. What the whole neighborhood had done. She could help him accept the inevitable. You're new here, Maya said gently. Adjusting can be hard. I have the number for a really good therapist. Dr. Ryan. He's helped a lot of us. The man's expression shifted. Relief. Gratitude. Really? That would be thank you. I've been so stressed lately. Maybe I am just imagining things. Maybe, Maya said. She went back inside. Took her medication. Went back to bed. In the morning, she couldn't quite remember what had happened. Probably nothing. Probably a dream. She made coffee. Sat at her Kit Taylor table. Started writing a piece about the joys of community living. Through the window, she could see Christopher Miller watering his lawn. He waved. She waved back. Everything was fine. Everything had always been fine. Except, there on her Kit Taylor counter, next to her medication bottle, was something she didn't remember leaving there. Lauren Taylor's journal. Open to the final page. The page that had always been blank. Now, in handwriting that was unmistakably hers, were 3 words. You know better. Maya stared at it for a long time. Then she closed the journal. Put it in a drawer. Took her medication. And went outside to welcome the new neighbor to Willow Heights. Where everything was fine. where everything would always be fine, where the only real madness was believing you could ever know the difference. Trust you enjoyed the story? Remember to like, share, subscribe and leave comment. Next story drops tomorrow.